Hello, welcome to MOCHA Talk and Caffeine Dreams. Uh, we're starting it off with our wonderful host, Ashley Finley. My name's Andres Reyes. And we today, for our guest, we have the amazing Maximilian Facundo Plaza, uh, who is actually a personal friend of mine. Today's podcast is a little special because I went and sought out Max, and I asked him, I begged him to come on this podcast because I know Max from working in the jazz scene here. I know Max is a professional pianist and a teacher and composer, and I know that perspective of him, right? And I just wanted to bring him on here and try to understand the many other perspectives of Max, like the more, who as a human is Max, besides just being this amazing pianist that I know. So thank you very much, Max, for being here today
Thank
and
you for having
giving
me.
us a chance for that.
Thank you.
Amazing. Max, what was your full name again?
Okay, it's Facundo
Mm-hmm.
Maximiliano Plaza.
Oh,
Most people here in the States know me by Max
Max.
because it's easier.
Right.
But, yes, and but back in Argentina, and a lot of friends here also call me Facu or Facundo.
Oh, wow.
So, but here a lot of people call me Max.
It's just easier
Yes,
to
exactly.
say Max.
Yes.
I just wanted to hear that one more time because it was so pretty sounding. Like the
Okay.
name is very pretty.
Facundo Maximiliano Plaza.
Facundo Maximiliano Plaza.
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
That was my my mom's idea.
Oh,
She was
yeah.
Yeah, it's got a nice rhythm.
It does.
Yes, so
It
I
sounds
like it.
very musical.
Yeah.
See, I hope that when you do shows, I hope that you have people introduce you
With
your
my full name.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Maybe I start doing
Yeah,
that.
do
Yes.
that. I'm so
Uh,
excited to talk to you.
Thank you, Ashley.
I know that Andres was telling me a little bit about you, and I know Andres from this project, but also from working with him before and kind of meeting some of his musician community, and so I'm really excited that I get to really kind of sit with you and talk with you
Well,
today.
thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
Whatever you want to start
Well,
with.
I am from Argentina, from Buenos Aires. It's the main state. There the capital is there. And I come from a family. We are 7 total. Four from the first marriage.
Yeah.
4 boys, and then I have my siblings from my dad's side, 3 more, 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Wow.
So I am the third one. There,
Out of
yes,
7?
yes,
Wow.
yes. So and then I had 2 brothers that live here in the States, and the rest of them are back in Argentina.
Wow.
My parents, yeah.
It's a big family.
Yes.
How was that growing up?
Well, I mostly was raised by my mom, and there is a difference age between my 2 older brothers and then myself and my youngest brother. So they were doing their own thing while we were home.
Right.
My 2 older brothers. So there wasn't a lot of people at home. It was
Okay.
my mom and just my little brother and me.
And you.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of nice, right? You got a little bit more time,
Yeah.
quiet.
I had the role of the older
Right.
the older brother, and I bet I was kind of paying to my
Yeah.
to my younger brother because I was making the decisions. What we're gonna do. That kind of thing.
I'm an
But,
older brother too, so I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and it's definitely that older sibling energy.
Yes, exactly, and it still remains to this day. But I'm trying, but I'm trying to be more cool about it. It's just he was very patient with me.
Are your siblings patient?
Yeah.
No.
No. They push back a little.
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh,
so
well.
funny.
Yeah, but there is a gap between about 10 years difference.
Oh wow.
So yeah, they were teenagers pretty much when we were little kids.
When you were little, yeah.
So
Yeah.
my two older brothers. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
music, like you know Andres through being a musician. Has this been something that you've always kind of been like gravitating to, or did you find it later? Tell me a little bit about that.
No, well, my two older brothers, they had a band. They started a band with
cool.
some friends,
Mhm.
and I was like, um, I thought that was the best thing,
Yeah.
So once in a while, they would take me to the rehearsals, and they would allow me to play a little drums because at that point, that was the thing that got my attention.
Right.
The drums.
The
Right?
drums. Yeah.
And then my brother, he plays the piano too, and he would at some point he was like, okay, I'm gonna teach you a couple of lessons, right? And then I just, of course, he probably wasn't really too excited about teaching me, He was, but he was cool enough to teach me a couple of things, and with that. I just started, just making a little noise there.
Yeah.
And then that's how it started. I was probably 9
Wow.
when I started, just playing a little bit of piano. And then from there, later, a couple of years later, I started taking lessons with a lady that used to play the piano at church, and she would teach me a little bit. But during those days, my musical education wasn't very consistent. Whenever I could go and take lessons, I would. So at some point, I convinced my dad to pay for lessons with a good teacher in the area, in the neighborhood. And I took lessons with him, I think a couple of years. And then there was a small music school there.
Oh wow.
That I would go to, and I went there for a couple of years too, on and off, but that's how I started, with music, basically. Thanks to my older brothers, basically.
Yeah.
Because they had this little group that they would, play shows, at the park or sometimes friend's house or sometimes at a church, and they were kind of like the coolest dudes around for me,
That's so cute. I love that.
So yeah, that's how kind of started. Yeah.
The coolest dudes around.
Yes.
I wonder have you told them that, as an adult?
I told them, and at some point I was like, in more than one occasion I was like, I was really, that's what I thought about you guys doing that, and and probably that's one of the main factors that led me into do music, myself.
Wow.
Was there a big musical community in Argentina, or was it just your older siblings that you saw going around?
Well, at that point, in the area where we lived, there were some other groups. That was, during the 90s. Well, actually, they started out like in the late 80s, 90s, and then in that area there were some groups, not very many, but the thing is like in Argentina we have this thing that at some point most of us want to play an instrument or to start something, and then after a little bit most people give up, but at some point they all start a little group, it's mostly rock or punk rock, because it's easier. And you can get some, a song with 2 or 3 chords and then just go, So I would say that we, as people, we put music in a special place. It's important to us. So yeah, there is also in other parts, mostly in the capital city, where there's a lot of great musicians. They all converge there because it's like to a much smaller scale. It's like New York, to be in the capital there. So a lot of musicians go there and start really interesting projects. And there's always been a very interesting scene over there to this day, right? So yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think I was like really surprised when you were kind of telling me, I was like asking about your shirt and then just kind of hearing you talk too about it seems like there's like a heavy influence of like rock music as well. Like what do you what do you think that is?
Well, early on during the 60s, you could people young people started like paying attention to what was going on in the States and also in England, and they were like inspired, and they started their own bands over there. And it's interesting because you can find influences by the music of rock music of those days in groups in Argentina, but it's not like a copy, It's like they took the influence and they create something unique with that. So it's been like that throughout the decades. I think one of the best decades was probably the 80s. And that has to do with other factors that were happening at the time in the country. In the 80s, we went back to democracy. We were on a period of dictatorship during the late 70s to the early 80s. And then when democracy came back, there was like an abundance of, all of a sudden, abundance of art in different, and one of them was music, and and then a lot of interesting things happened during that period of time.
Almost like a renaissance.
Exactly. Yes, kind of like that. And then, but if you're interested, then maybe I can just send you some links later. The interesting music that happened there. Also, we have our own music. There is a folkloric music. And also tango. Yes. And there are some really great jazz musicians as well. So, as I said, music is really important over there.
It's a big, So, with that being said, fast forward to when you decide, all right, I'm gonna pursue this, like for real. I'm gonna go to college for this. I'm gonna try to make this my career.
Yes.
How did you was that received well? Was it kind of just like, oh, okay, Max is going,
received well by
family, by community?
Well, everybody that knows me from a long time, they would associate me with music and the piano, because I always was, if there was a piano around, I would be just
play.
going there and playing a little bit, trying. So it wasn't really a surprise for the people that surrounded me,
Right.
I know that they like any artistic endeavor or it's there are a lot of things that are not secure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was some worry about that, but you know that maybe my mom was always cool with it. My dad, he never really understood what I was up to.
Right.
But he was okay, you know.
There's always one
He's
thing.
like, you should do something else probably, but you know.
I mean, just maybe do
But
that.
you know, the thing is like when I really started to when I made the decision to school for music, I was already here. I was older, and I was making that decision on my own.
Okay.
Paying for school on my own, and you
Right.
know, I know, and so it was.
Okay.
It was a decision that it wouldn't affect anyone else but me.
But
in that
you,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you're like fresh out of high school or like I'm gonna do this.
No. I try other things, you know, for a little bit. Like back in Argentina, I was gonna become what do you call it? For a little while, an optician. Is that the word?
Optometrist.
Not optometrist, but the guy that you know, kind of like works for the optometrist.
Oh, okay,
The one
okay,
that
okay.
works with frames and yeah.
Okay.
And it was so boring. I couldn't, you know, I couldn't deal with that. And then also, yeah, I did other jobs, you know.
Yeah.
But it's okay, you know. I still don't work full time as a musician, and I don't have. I made peace with that, and but I'm trying, you know, always trying things with music. I found a lot of joy teaching music, which at the beginning I didn't know
Yeah.
how that was gonna be, but I really enjoyed the process of people discovering music and finding themselves being able to you know play a little
Create.
bit to understand the theory and all of that is
Yeah.
you know it's really rewarding.
That's
Yes.
beautiful.
You know what? That's really funny because like it was the same for me, because working as a musician, you're like, I need to be trying to get as much work as I can and practicing and all this stuff and composing. So you sort of see teaching as this day job that's still related to music, but still like not exactly what you want to do. Well, that's how I looked at it until I started teaching a lot at a performance school here in Sugar House. And yeah, the same thing. It's like I found out that I actually enjoy teaching.
Yes. Yes, it's. I only teach motivated students. I wouldn't take a kid that, you know, they're sending to take lessons because it's like, oh, something else in his schedule, you know, because he has to do, and he's like, okay, here I am. No, so mostly it's, you know, teenagers and up, you know,
Okay.
like in their 20s. I even have a really good student in his 70s, you know. I only have one kid, and he's great. He's very motivated, he's very musical, and he has a lot of aptitudes for me. So in that case, yes, of course.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but so
So it's like you're looking for people with the passion and already.
yes, and also with jazz music, it's almost a requirement.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Because there is a lot that is presented to you, but you had to sort of explore it yourself.
Right.
And it's a little bit like you are building your own your education like in a way that is not well connected the concepts with each other for a little while, and then they start you know making sense, and there is also the element of improvisation, which you really had to create with information that you've been practicing before, preconceived information, but you are creating or coming up with your own arrangements and things like
Right.
that. So it's it's not given to you. Like,
Right.
and usually people come with a little bit of the fundamentals already
Mhm.
there,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
they want to transition into learn this type of music, you know.
Mhm.
So
That's
yeah.
amazing.
So, I guess I'm wondering two things. Uh, you were already in the States before you even started school or college.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering like what that transition was like, and I'm also wondering when did you get exposed to jazz? Like when did that bug get into you that you
Oh
wanted to go to
yes,
school for it?
yes. So there were like three main sources. Uh, okay, so uh, I started listening to rock music and pop music because of my brothers, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Then after that, when I started taking lessons, I started taking lessons with one professor would that he would record, cassette tapes, right,
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
me. Um, and in one of them, he put a little bit of Pat Metheny
Mm.
and a little bit of Bill Evans and a little bit of Oscar Peterson
Mm.
and a little bit of Johann Sebastian Bach. So it was
Oh
a mixture of
wow.
things, a little bit of tango music that. So I was like, this is amazing. It was
Yeah.
like a discovering a whole world,
Mm.
a new world there. And also another source was my uncle. He has a lot of vinyls and CDs with
Mhm.
a big variety of music, but he would also have a jazz section, and I was like, okay, he had also some Pat Metheny, some also what else? Um, uh, Gary Mulligan,
Yeah.
Mm.
and stuff like that. And I would be okay. What's that? And I would listen to it for a little bit. He will allow me to, use
Mhm.
his vinyls, and then the third source was one of my cousins. He would be like, okay, let's listen to some Charlie Parker. And I was like,
Oh
okay,
wow.
this is too much.
That's
Too
everyone
much
that listens to Charlie
information.
Parker.
I can't digest all of this. So honestly, at the beginning, I couldn't really appreciate Charlie Parker, for
Mhm.
instance. But
Mhm.
he would also have some Chaco Pastorius, and I was hooked like that.
Ooh.
He's a bass player.
Mhm.
Have you heard of him?
No, but I.
You should check him out. He's great. And also, yeah. So he would present me with music like that, and then from there I started like listening to jazz, and I asked my piano teacher at the time, hey, could you teach me a little bit
Mm.
about this, a little bit more? And so that's how it started basically. At the very beginning, I was like around 14, 15. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find like, we were talking with one of our guests who's also a musician, and
Uh-huh.
and they were kind of talking about this idea of music being this very visceral thing that kind of lights up your whole brain, right? And then like you can remember memories, right, from like certain songs or sounds. Do you find that like the musicians that you just mentioned, which I have to ashamedly say that I'm not incredibly familiar. Like I know who Charlie Parker is, but this is what Andres is here for. He's gonna teach me.
Okay. Okay.
And that way when we connect again, I'll be like, oh yeah, let me tell you, Max.
I really like this song.
I really like this one. Do you find that that a lot of your story is told through music?
Told from music. That's a good question. Yes, I think it does. Music is always being consistent with me. You know,
Mm, mm.
and um, you create this relationship. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's overwhelming, and sometimes it's you fight it for a little bit.
Yeah.
You can even walk away from it for a little bit, but then
It's back.
it takes you back.
Yeah.
You know.
Ugh.
And so it's like, but as I said, it's always there
Yeah.
for you, and it's really a source of expressing yourself in a way that it couldn't be done any other by any other means, right? And the interesting thing with this is that it's like alchemy in a way, because you have these elements. You are working with this machine, which is your instrument, right? And the machine by itself is nothing really. It's amazing, right?
Right.
But that they put together that machine, but by itself, it's just wood and iron, and it's a tool. But then you sit down there, and if you really are in tune with what you're supposed to be doing at that moment, there is something special that wasn't there. That's the alchemy that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It starts with you, and then sometimes, if you're lucky, it flows towards you.
Oh.
You see?
Oh.
And then you.
So magical.
Yeah. So there's something really. So the ones I've been fortunate to encounter that.
Yeah.
And to get to that point and be able to sometimes generate that. We are very lucky.
Yeah.
It's a special thing. And that's how I see it. It's physics, but it's also something else that's beyond that.
Physics, yeah.
And then what I'm feeling might not transpose exactly the same way to what it makes you feel. But it might, it can work in different ways. It can be something that really is not a specific thing, but it moves you in a way.
Right.
Or it might bring some memories to you. It could be sad, it could be happy, it could be just this energy, that sometimes we feel when we are playing with other musicians. It's there. It's just grooving and everything. It's like we are going somewhere, but we're just there.
Oh.
And yeah, so
that's amazing.
So I just want to point out that the way you just described it as conscious, that flow, is exactly how Wayne Shorter describes it.
Oh.
Yes, I don't know if you checked that out.
I haven't heard that interview, but I thought, yeah, he said it then.
He said it then. You're right, then.
It's just funny, like great musicians, parallel thinking, right? Like how we feel on content.
I will say that, like, being able to witness Andres and, like, some of the projects I've worked with you on, and that hopefully, like, I can see you, like, it's so beautiful because, it's like, and I've seen you work with, like, musicians that you didn't even really know, right? Like another band that you're just like, okay, we're here for the same event or the same thing. Like, and we all kind of understand, like you were saying, like the elements or music theory or, but then, like, there's this kind of transformation that happens, especially that I see in Andres, where it's like, he's not even there. It's like, he's in the song, like, and like, I tend to be really, like, for myself, because I guess of the art that I do and poetry and performance in that way, I tend to be really in the room, right? Like so much of my work revolves around like feedback and kind of noticing where I am and kind of seeing how people are reacting to what I'm saying. But then like seeing Andres and other musicians just kind of like transform into this place that seems beyond the room, like when you're playing music, is just like one of these like really beautiful things. And it makes me think of what you were kind of talking about, like this consciousness that kind of comes to you. There's a book called Big Magic, and it's written by an author named Elizabeth Gilbert, and she actually wrote Eat, Pray, Love, which was that like big, it was like a big movie here in the Americas about her going to like on this journey to find herself, right? And it's a true story, but then it got turned into a movie, and I think Julia Roberts played her. But anyways, in the book Big Magic, she talks about creativity and the ideas that happen. Like ideas are these living things, right? And like creativity is this living thing that kind of comes to you, and it like taps you on your shoulder and says, "Hey, do you want to work with me?" you know.
Yeah.
And then like you enter into this contract or into this relationship with whatever creative idea that is, and like it's almost like an honoring, like that honors you as the person who's able to carry it out, and you honor that as like inspiration. So hearing what you're saying, you know, like your relationship to music and to your art is just really, really beautiful. And I wish that we got more glimpses of that, you know, in our lives. Everybody did.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I'm curious because I feel like this happens to a lot of people involved in the pursuit of art, where at some point we invest so much energy and so much of our personality into what we do, and at some point it can get destructive. Like if our creation is not what we think it should be, or if we don't think where we're at in terms of skill and creativity, um, we can look at that and think very negative of it, and start to think very negative of ourselves. And I've been through that. I'm sure you've been through that, Ashley. I was curious, Max. Could I hear about a moment like that? If you've had a moment like
sure.
that.
Yes. Well, for musicians, it's it's a hard thing to differentiate. The thing that is, let me see, it's like we are not what we do, right? For musicians, a lot of musicians, there is no line,
Right.
but I think it's, and I've been through that, in different contexts. For instance, at school, I couldn't help comparing myself to other pianists, and I was like, oh man, why am I not at his level, I couldn't help it. I mean, it's not like I have envy or anything like that.
Right.
No, I was that I know. I don't think that's one of the burdens I don't carry, But
Right.
but I would be like making those comparisons, and then I will be maybe too hard on myself when after playing a show or something, So the whole thing was going somewhere else. That thing that started, with being just so happy with being able to play, a tune that resembled what my heroes were playing.
Right.
So
Right.
something like that, or maybe it just came up with a little idea, and I was so that was the beginning, and that process. It was, if it goes away, then you start going on this road that is not good,
Right.
right? So it's always you have to remind yourself how why it matters to you at the most basic level. You know why? What were the real reasons, right? And that we all have different paths in life, right? Um, uh, and also that we are not what we do. So I don't know, you know, if something happens and you are not able to play your instrument ever again for some reason, in an accident or something, then what are you gonna do? Is that your identity, right? Or is you as a human being, right?
Yeah.
So that's some internal work there that we need to. I think for other people it's easier because they go and they are I don't know they are lawyers maybe for that period of time that they are working and then they come home and then it's just them, you know. But for us, we go teach or we go play shows and then we go back home and we're still there, you know.
Yeah.
So
You're still thinking about it.
practicing, thinking about it. So it's important to know that, I mean, for at least for me, that there is a line between what I do or what I try to do and what I am as a person.
Yeah. And I think you're talking, both of you are kind of talking about like the not so dreamy like side of being an artist, right? Of like, because I can personally say like I'm not a musician, but I can say that I'm really attached to my art, right? Like it's like Erica Badu says, like, you know that I'm sensitive about my shit, right? Like it's like is I'm really attached to the vulnerability I produce in my creative flow, right? And so it can be hard to distinguish because I look at a poem and I look at the story that I've written and I'm like, no, that's me because I'm writing me, right? And like with your synthesis, like what you synthesize with your music, I can imagine that you're like, no, that's a bit of my soul right there. Like that just came out. So that is me. And it can be hard to kind of separate from that.
Yes, but when it's out there, it's out there. You know, and if you are going,
I like that.
Yeah, when you do this type of thing, you have to be willing to let it go.
Yeah.
And then move into the next. Sorry, into the next thing. You know, because it's true. You know, if you don't do that, then you are holding onto that thing, and you are very sensitive about what others think of it, or what you or you can just criticize yourself in a way that is not constructive, and all that type of things. So
yeah.
So who is Max outside of being the pianist?
Well, I try to be a good brother. You know, I try to be a good son to my parents. And I also, like for a while, I was taking care of elderly people, so that taught me a lot about life and death. It put that thought on my head, that we are here for a moment, for a brief moment, and that we need to make this moment meaningful. So I try to learn from life, and I make notes all the time. When things, mental notes, or sometimes I write. But the thing is, like when you go out there, you meet people, you are in situations, and then things sometimes don't go the way you want it to go. And then in many cases, it has to do with growth,
Mhm.
right? And that's the way I try to live, you know. So if something happens that I wasn't anticipating or something that I didn't want to go that way, I will be like, okay, it happened. All right, so
Mm.
what do I need to learn from this? You know?
Beautiful.
And yeah, that. And then that has helped me, you know, through kind of like being this uh, sort of change, that constant change in a
Mhm.
way. I mean, I'm essentially the same dude, right?
Mhm.
But there is also this part that I allow it to be fluid, you know, and change
Mm.
to change because I think that's what life is trying to do with us. It's trying to teach us all the time. So I
Mm.
try to do that too. And for the most part, yeah, there isn't much that I can say. I'm a regular, just a regular dude. But you know, I
Yeah.
mean, something I would have to say is that um, I really have learned a lot by moving to a different country
Mm. Yeah.
about life, different types of thoughts, and you know. But at the same time, I found that uh, to a essential level, to a basic level, we are pretty similar,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
But
I I love and appreciate that the first two things you listed was like be a good brother and then be a good son.
Mm.
It's like when I think about you, Max, I think you're one of the most kindest people I've met
Mm.
in the music in like the world. You know,
wow,
um,
yeah,
especially in the music scene where not everyone's super kind to each other in a
Yeah.
competitive field. But you've always been that dude that I know I can count on and like will just treat things fairly, and it makes me wonder like where did that come from? And I think you sort of answered that where your mindset of essentially you try to be the same person you are, but you do keep parts or you do keep parts of your life and your mentality fluid
Mm.
because you understand that things people are different everywhere, um, and you're just constantly growing as a person. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems to come from just being in environments where you're constantly having to change yourself.
Mm.
Like when you moved here, and then when you went to school for jazz, which is super competitive already in academia,
Mm.
and then trying to work in the music scene is
yeah.
even more competitive.
Well, as I said before, when you mentioned when you said, because you said that before the interview, and I really wasn't ready for for that.
Mm.
So I'm very, again, I should say I'm very humbled by your words, and I really didn't know that you had an opinion, and I really, I really appreciate it, and it's and that, and that's what really matters after all,
Mm.
right? After all that's been said, and after all the sophistication in anything that we do or whatever,
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, I think we are here to connect as humans and to help each other out, in this journey, right?
Yeah.
And we don't, and it's gonna end at
Yeah.
some point, at least at this level, in this
Yeah.
plane, right?
On this plane.
Be, because we were talking about it earlier, it ends, and we don't know when or how.
It's true.
It ends. So sometimes we lose sight of that, and we are just struggling with the trivial things, right? And I am guilty of that almost every day. But
No, yeah.
yeah.
You're so right. Keeping that bigger picture, I think, is so important, and like the way we go about our daily lives. Like what's the quote? Not to like bring a joke, but the quote is like, I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. And that's like, if we could just keep that as like the little person on our shoulder nudging us to keep authenticity and to keep, like you said, the ability to be fluid. Like, I think that like I think that people would have much more fulfilling lives, and then I think that our society could reflect that fulfillment a lot better.
Yes.
Maybe like if every musician could remember that, then like we'd have like a much more kind of diverse music scene here, especially in jazz. I don't know. Am I out of my lane? Am I talking about stuff I don't need to be talking about?
Well, this topic could take us 2 more hours.
2 more hours, all right, Michael. let's just tack it on. Yeah, but I guess like with kind of a quick transition to that, being a professional pianist, composer, musician here, and also kind of adding on to that your identity as an immigrant, how like what's your experience like
Well,
in the scene, I guess?
in the scene, yes. Well, the scene overall is being is probably the most accepting environment for an immigrant, I would say. Because they, and especially in jazz music. I don't know if how it would be in other types of music, right?
Yeah.
Because jazz music and the concept of it is to embrace,
Right.
right? And that transpires on a little bit on the people that are trying to play that music, right? So in that sense, I am, grateful because it's been, I haven't encountered any situation that had to do with that particular thing of me being from somewhere else. In any case, they were interested to know, okay, what influence can you bring to the table that are from, from where you come from, right?
Right.
And there were other situations that weren't like, and that has to do with what you said, maybe being competitive or being, there is a word, it's called vibing, It's vibing is when maybe, you go and you go and play with some people that they might be a little, better than you or something like that, or maybe you're not as prepared or something, and then they would make you know. They will let you know.
Lord. Oh goodness.
Maybe,
like,
but not in a, maybe they won't come at you and say, hey, you suck.
Yeah.
But they will be, you will feel that vibe.
Okay, I see what you mean.
There is that. But that happens to all of us.
Yeah.
So there, and that has happened to me, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You just gotta know it's there. It's not the coolest thing.
Right.
But that's a more general thing that happens regardless where you come from.
Right.
But otherwise, it's been a good experience. I also took this opportunity to kind of like, bring a little bit of styles that people might not be very familiar with here, and just okay, how about we play this tune with this rhythm that is from Argentina, and it really fits well, and usually people, other musicians are really cool about it. And they're like, oh yeah, this works. Let's do it. You know, like Andres is one of them, for instance. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's good because sometimes in Salt Lake City, it feels like, I mean, at least even in my scene, right? Like sometimes it feels like you're seeing the same people over and over, and you're like, where is everybody else? You know, but it's really good.
Well, that happens too.
Yeah.
With us, you know. I mean, if you're talking about gigs and who gets the gigs, most of the gigs, and yeah, there is, you know, like a group of people that probably would, you know, be taking most of the gigs, and you see the same faces a lot. And you know, there are great musicians, and they, you know, they deserve the gigs that they get. Obviously, there's no question about it. But it seems also that that particular thing doesn't allow the rest of us sometimes, you know, to
diversify,
bring something to the table and grow, you know, and all that type of thing. But in my case, not to worry about that. You know, because for me, I don't care if I'm not, you know, in this getting all the gigs in because I like playing gigs, you know, and I enjoy that part of it, and also you know, it's part of the income, and that's good. But at the same time, there are more important things like the music I really want to explore and to share, and maybe to start cooperating in projects that, you know, are interesting to me. And having said that, I also go and play gigs that with playing music that I really don't care too much about. Right. Know?
Sometimes that's what you gotta do.
But exactly. But when I do that, I put my heart on it. You know, I respect the artists that hire me for that, and I do my best for them.
That's beautiful.
Because you know, it's what they're doing, and if they trust me on that, then I had to deliver.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna make a concert, and I'm gonna have you all come. I don't know how it's gonna happen. It might happen 15 years from now, but be ready.
Okay.
Be ready. Okay. Max, where can we find your work? Where can we?
Well, I have an Instagram page. You call it? It's called at Facu Max Plaza. I can write it down later, and maybe you can put a link to that.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
And then I have a YouTube channel too, where I post things that I play, just solo piano, and also when I participate with groups and things like that. So those are the main, you know, channels. And then and then I'm always happy to participate on projects or for studio sessions, or any you know, or if people need to learn about music or piano specifically, happy to help with that as well.
Okay.
Yes. Thank
awesome. So you heard it. We'll put the links in the show notes so people can contact you and also experience your work, and maybe even sign up for some lessons. I don't know. I might need to be asking for some lessons for Christmas. I know how to play one scale on the piano, and it just so maybe I can like build on that and learn a little bit more.
Well, you can play one scale. You can play at least 12 scales.
Ooh, okay.
Right now. All you gotta do is just think about the distance between those notes and just start somewhere else and keep the same distance. Ooh. And it would sound like that scale, but in a different key.
In a different key. Okay, so I'm gonna practice this.
There you go.
And then you're gonna get a random DM from me on Instagram, like just a video of me doing that over and over.
Awesome. Yeah.
But one thing we like to do here on the show is when we have a guest, we really like to present them with a comic book. So these comic books are provided by Black Cat Comics, who is an amazing local comic store. And what we do is we go to them and we tell them about our guest, and then he makes a specialized kind of curated pick for our guest. So you mentioned that you enjoyed Batman.
Yes.
Right? And so
it's different versions, you know?
Yes. Yes. So
well, sorry to.
Oh no, go ahead.
There are some versions I hadn't enjoyed very much. Like
Ooh.
the Val Kilmer, I didn't care for that. And George Clooney, no.
No, you didn't like George Clooney.
But Adam West was one of the best. And then we have Michael Keaton. He was pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And Jack Nicholson was in that movie.
And Jack Nicholson was a great Joker. Yeah.
And Christian Bale did a pretty good job too.
Did you like what was his name? I call him Heath Ledger. Did you like Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I call him as a nickname.
No, he did great. Yeah. Yes, he did awesome. And also, I enjoyed a lot the Joker, the latest one.
Joaquin Phoenix, yeah.
Yes.
He looked really cool. He kind of looked like a gangster with his grill. I was like, okay. Yeah. No, he was in the other movie. I'm thinking of.
Also, there is an Argentine version, a third world Batman.
Ooh.
You know that? He had to, all of his. He didn't have. He has a Batmobile, but it's a third world.
Third world, so he's not like super rich.
No.
Which is the thing about Batman, right? Like he just has a lot of access.
This is the Argentine Batman. He has just a beat up car, and he's like, I don't know. He doesn't have anything that he uses work properly,
right. That's great.
Yeah, so it's awesome. Yeah. It's really funny.
Oh my gosh, I have to look up that one.
Yeah, there is no translation for that, but yes, it's really fun. So yeah, anyway.
One thing I have to correct myself. I know that Joaquin Phoenix played the Joker. Okay. I just want everyone, don't come for me in the comments. I made a mistake. Anyway, all those white actors, they just kind of blend together. No, I'm just kidding. They all look a little similar. I'm just kidding. Really, don't come for me in the comments. But so we wanted to give you Batman Meets the Green Hornet.
All right.
And the thing that we really loved about this is that this one obviously is the Batman comic, which you enjoy. Sounds like you're a pretty big fan. But it's really kind of funny and lighthearted. So a lot of the fighting styles are
great. Yeah, it's the Adam West version probably. So yes. I love that. Yes.
So we'd like to present that and thank Black Cat Comics one more time. And I learned so much
Thanks
from
for
you,
having me, yes.
and you've fed my soul, and I appreciate you talking with us today.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's be friends.
Oh yeah. Of course. Yes.
This is gonna be my show. Like every time I tagline, let's be friends, because I just love making new friends. This is a great thing. All right, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks for listening to MOCHA Talk and Caffeine Dreams. Be sure to follow us online at MOCHA Talk Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, or on our website at mochatalkpodcast.com. Special thanks to our sponsors, Watchtower Coffee and Comics, Rusted Box Records, and Black Cat Comics. We'll see you on the next episode.